and Breakdowns.
Welcome back to the Chill Sounds and Breakdowns podcast. We are on episode 108, and I'm excited to finally get this one done because we were trying to get this done a little earlier in the year. Some stuff didn't work out, but we're doing it today. Today we have Hayden Miller of Dead Vinyl. What's going on?
What's up, dude? So cool to be here, dude.
Yeah,
thank you for having me on.
Working out, on this little rainy day. It's fine.
Yeah, and it's Mother's Day.
True,
Mother's Day.
I didn't
shout out to my sweet mother. If you're out there listening, mother, thank you for supporting me as you always do. As you always do.
Wow. Now turn it off.
Okay. Now turn it off because this next part you don't want to hear.
Yeah. But yeah, though the reason I really wanted to talk to you, and even why because DJ Daniel was the one that actually put me in contact and made me aware about. Yeah. But you dropped a solo record.
I dropped a solo record, man.
Last year
at October 6th last year. I did a solo record. I've been with Dead Vinyl for 10 years as of this year.
Wow.
Long time to be in a band with dudes, but they're like your brothers and stuff like that, and I love them to death. But with a band like that, it's real. What's the word? We do things pretty democratically there. Everybody gets a voice. Everybody gets there's not one set leader of Dead Vinyl, and that's not a problem or anything. I love working like that, but I had this really acute vision for this record, and so I did it just on my own.
What's going on, everybody? It's OC, your host for the Chill Sounds and Breakdowns podcast, and I'm here today to talk to you about Full Step Go. Now, as you can see today, I am dripped in it. I got the shirt, I got the hat, but Full Step Go is a lot more than just clothes. It's more than clothing, it's a culture. Full Step Go has always been a symbol that cultivates a community of creativity and growth. Whether it's music, artwork, clothing, they are all over the map making waves. They truly do inspire creatives to uncover their potential and discover their true selves. There really is no limits when it comes to your creativity. So follow Full Step Go to join the new counterculture movement and go against the mainstream. So I was reading a little bit about the process and what was going on at the time, and it looks like it was kind of at the beginning of the pandemic. Dead Vinyl had hit the road, and then that's when shit hits the fan.
Yeah,
and you basically that tour, whatever, ends and you guys are just stuck.
In tears. That tour ended in tears because the pandemic hit, man. We were were you already on the road at the time? Yeah. We were halfway through the tour. We thought this tour, oh God, I worked on this tour for so long. I mean, you know how tour booking can take months and months of work in advance, and this was our first West Coast run. So we were heading out to, Los Angeles, San Diego, San Francisco, getting the whole West Coast there. It was going to be so fun. And we hit the first 2 gigs, and this was March 14th, 15th, somewhere around there, 2020, right before they brought the hammer down. And so we played those first 2 gigs, and they were very, low attendance, and everybody was like, well, this whole COVID thing's probably pretty bad. By the time we're going up the 5 to LA to try to do this next show, which is in LA at the Lexington or something like that. I forgot what the name of the venue was, but we're going up there. We're getting calls from bookers left and right, just being like, I got to cancel the show. This thing is really bad. This is whatever's happening. It's shutting the whole world down right now. I mean, you remember this feeling. It was insane, man. And so basically our entire tour canceled except for Las Vegas.
Checks out.
Crazy ass town was just fuck it. Yeah. And it was an outdoor gig that we had in Las Vegas. So we were like, let's just, drown our sorrows in Los Angeles for a minute. So we went to this little bar, had a couple drinks. One of the only places that was still serving drinks, you know. And we're having a few cocktails, and it was a bar that we had known from another podcast that we listen to podcasts all the time while on the road, podcasts are great for tours. And we listen to one called Harmontown. And one of the co-hosts of that show, Jeff Davis from Whose Line Is It Anyway fame.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Walks into the bar, and we were just like, oh. Oh my God, that's Jeff Davis. We were so happy. It was just kind of this If you're familiar with the Campbellian story circle, this was kind of the bottom of our story circle. And we needed to pull the sword from the stone and have the meeting with the goddess. And in walks Jeff Davis from like famed improv comedian, you know. And we sit there and we kind of commiserate about, because like for once we're on even ground with this celebrity. Yeah. It's like, oh, your shit got canceled too, huh? I guess we're in the same boat, darn it, you know?
Yeah.
It was good talking to him and just having a good time. And then of course we go to, LA and we go to Las Vegas, Las Vegas, all the losses on that side of the country. There's a lot of losses, lost this, lost that, whatever. Las Vegas, we play the outdoor show, really poorly attended, but, really awesome venue. It was like old, like an old motel sort of, but they renovated all the rooms out to be like little shops that you can set up in and sell your homemade jewelry and shit.
That's fucking sick.
Yeah, it's fucking cool. It was fucking real cool. Again, super cool venue, super cool people at this show, but just not super well attended because of the pandemic. So we absolutely drove home from there, from Las Vegas. Drove home all the way to Florida.
All the way?
Yeah, we were just like, fuck this noise. We're just going to go home. Because everything canceled. Yeah. And it was just, that was a heartbreaking experience for us. But we had a lot of lessons learned, Yeah,
I know. I've heard a lot of stories of people like locally, like, their gigs got messed up and everything, like here when everything got shut down. But being on the road and it happening, like while you're already have this plan of going out and like touring's like according to everybody that I've talked to that's gone like out there on the road, it's like one of the funnest parts of like being in a band. It's rough, but like you get to play your music like at all these like different places. Like it's like a cool road trip experience, especially like you're talking about like Dead Vinyl being like, it's a bunch of like your best friends just hanging out. Like it's fucking sick. It's gonna be great. Sick. And then this shit just unprecedented shit just hits the band. Like no one knows what the fuck they're doing other than just like, I guess we're just gonna stop doing stuff. Shut it all down. Shut the country down. Nothing's gonna work for several months. And I guess it was like that. But man, I mean, these tours, they take so long to book, They take this one took me, I started 6 months back, contacting people. Yeah. Getting all this stuff. Like this was before we realized it was going to be what it was, And sure enough, like a month before we went off to tour in like February-ish of that year, they were all being like, well, this is getting pretty bad out here. You probably wouldn't want to do that because it's going to be bad or whatever. And we were just like, fuck the haters. We're going to go out and just fucking. Well, we had seen, I don't know, like, I guess eventually, like, with so many, like, times where they've tried to do something like that before, where, like, you think, like, oh, well, like, this new strain of flu or something like that. Everyone's like, oh, like, eventually, like, it seems to, like, all go away. I remember hearing, like, the bird flu and all this, like, crap. And I'm like,
there was all kinds of
crazy what I mean? So, like, I think everybody didn't know, like, nobody had ever experienced anything like that. So everyone's like, it's going to blow over, like, or whatever. And it was kind of hard. Yeah, I had friends that were going to Europe to tour. And one of their members almost got stuck over there before, like, they literally shut it down. So he would have got stuck out there. And it was like it's a band called Unity TX, and they got stuck. I think most of their stuff got stuck over there, like for
all their gear and equipment and shit.
Yeah, I think they didn't get back. I think my friend Jonathan who's the drummer. I don't think he got his stuff back for like 2 years. Like it was just gone, and there's like no way to get it back.
Sitting in a van in a parking lot somewhere, or just...
I think it was like the airline that just had it. I can't remember exactly, shit. But it was just like
you're never getting that back.
They couldn't get their shit back. Like it literally took. I think it took 2 years. Like he was telling me. He just came in like recently. He was like, I just got the last of my things this year. I'm like, that's fucking crazy.
From an airline in Europe. Wow. They had it sitting in a fucking cage somewhere.
But then you realize like, oh, okay, this is why people like rent shit out when they go like that.
Can I say fuck? Is that okay?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool. I just want to make you never know, you want to make sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Then I stand by it.
But yeah, okay, so that's happening and everyone gets stuck, back at home, probably feeling pretty shitty about that happening. And then you guys were all living together at the time?
Yeah, we were all living together. We had for several years. That's a good way to do it if you're going to be in a band in your 20s, It just makes everything really, really easy. As far as like band practice, we didn't have to pay for like a space because we just practiced in the living room, you know. And we were cool with neighbors and stuff like that, trying to stay cool with everybody. So that was that was a golden age for me. It was, living with your boys and just waking up and making music and just trying to pay rent and do the thing, man. It was good times. It was good times. But alas, your 30s come eventually, folks. And what happens after that is not set in stone, but it is usually marriage and children and things like that, paying for a house, paying for cars, stuff like that happens.
Yeah.
It's called getting older, having responsibilities. And that happened to, members of my band, and God bless them, I love them. But after we all moved out and moved in with the ladies and got married and stuff, it was like finding it harder to do even smaller things, which is another good reason to make a record, on your own and just see if, like, can I do this by myself? Is it even possible? Like, and turns out it is.
Yeah, it is. Because first of all, the record is amazing. Like, I really like going from what I heard like Dead Vinyl be, and then like going to hearing this, I'm like, oh, like this is.
Yeah.
I was wondering how much of the elements was going to branch over, but it feels like a completely like new thing. Like, I do hear some of like the voice, but it's. The tone of it, I mean, obviously, I think you get a lot, and it's probably just because I hear the singing and piano, and Elton John is what comes to like mind all the time. And I'm like, this is fun because, like, I'm glad you said it because I'm like, there's no way that's not like in here.
That will never be an insult to me, man. I love Elton John. He's clearly an influence on the record for sure.
But yeah, it sounds so like the upbeat songs like are really like fun. Like I don't know, I just picture like the movie piano playing where just like people are like the hands are bouncing. Like that's what I feel like going like this. Yeah, that's literally what I'm picturing. Like with a bunch of those songs, and they're really really fun.
Thanks.
That's after you wanting to do the solo record. Like
it's a solo record, and I think if the way I see it is we went from Dead Vinyl to the solo record. I kind of went from breakdowns to more chill sounds. Really, I think just to put it into context.
No, yeah, absolutely, and so because you play multiple instruments yourself.
Yes, I do. I think overall I consider myself really. Just a songwriter. I like writing songs. That's my craft. That's what I like to do.
Gotcha.
I like making the best song I can. And so when it comes to the minutia of trying to really hammer down how to play one instrument really, really well, I don't concern myself too much with it. I love instruments. I love playing instruments. They're all just tools in my toolbox, though. You know what I mean? And I'm not going to get really good at using a screwdriver when I've also got to use a wrench and a whatever. These are tools. Let's all just use them evenly and get the project done. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, I love songwriting. That's my favorite.
Jack of all trades to help you create the bigger.
Right.
The big
I don't
picture.
think I'm excellent at piano. I don't think I'm excellent at guitar playing or singing or any of this stuff. But I can write a good song.
Okay. Which kind of makes sense into how like the record was conceived. So from what I was reading about, like you wrote like and demoed like an entire album, and you weren't sure like what you were gonna do with it, so you brought it to like I believe it Nolan
Robertson. Yeah, he's the guy who is the leader of the Hendersons. If you've ever heard of this band, they're a band out of Fort Worth that makes incredible like Baroque pop kind of music that is just really, really kind of. Every song he writes is so gorgeous. He's so talented. He's been one of my buddies for a long time. I showed it to him, and he was just like, "Let's do this. Like, let's just like we've got some time. We got a little extra cheddar cheese from that. What were the stimulus checks or whatever? You know what I mean? Yeah. So we got a little extra cheddar in the bank right now. Let's just fucking make this record." I was like, absolutely. If you want to help me, kind of find some arrangements and stuff like that. Like I said, it was already demoed out, so the songs were there. It was just, kind of had Nolan come in and kind of arrange some nice arrangements over it and stuff like that, which was really nice. He was kind of my, really my right-hand man on that whole record. It was good stuff. He's an incredible dude to have in the studio because he's just so succinct in how he speaks with music and how he can make you bring things out of you with that too.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah, because I was also reading that, like, so he recorded on it, Taylor
Tatch. Yeah, he was
Tatch.
also kind of the producer, engineer of the whole record. It's his studio.
But there was like the line that stood out of the article that I was reading was that, like, now it's really kind of hard to tell who played what, because like it's hard to remember like who was playing because it was so collaborative. But that, I like that you saying, we're like, I'm not really incredibly super good at one thing, so it's like whoever's like can get the part done.
Absolutely.
Because again, it's more about the song than it is like, oh, I need to be playing this
in service of the song. Always, man. Like it was me and 3 other multi-instrumentalists in a room going like, let me hear this. Okay, yeah, all right. You know what? I think I've got a part here. Let me go in there and hit this bass line or hit this guitar lick or something like that. And it was like, okay, yeah, go for it. Let's see how it sounds. You know, it was cool. So that's why it is hard to remember. Like, I don't remember really who played bass or drums on this record, but it was one of us. I can usually pick out the drums because drums are one of those instruments that are so, I don't know. It's like you can always tell who's playing a drum part. For some reason in my brain, I feel like that's real easy to tell. But when it comes to guitar lines and rhythm parts and bass and stuff like that, I can never really tell who did that. I did drums on a lot of the record. I think there's just 1 or 2 songs that I didn't play drums on. Played a lot of guitar. Tatch played a lot of guitar. Nolan played most of the like solos that you hear are Nolan. Really cool stuff that he wrote. And just the layering and the harmony that we were going for, like the Queen thing, you know? Yeah. Do like, all right, we're going to layer this guitar solo like, I don't know, 12 times, 15 times. Just really thicken it up, you know? That was a fun time.
Well, I think it's, I love when people get together and do collaborative efforts, just because you get so many, I mean, and you obviously already experienced that in like your band or whatever, because you, like you said, everybody, like you're running as a democracy, so everyone has an opinion.
Everybody gets a voice.
Yeah. And also like, because there's some bands where like everybody gets a voice, but not everybody uses it. So it's different like when you have a band that everybody like knows
everyone
how to put
feels empowered to speak up about something. Yeah.
But also like when you collaborate with people outside of your normal, you still get ideas, people who pull stuff out of you, and then people who you realize write stuff that like, oh, I didn't even see that at all. You know what I mean? And it's just, it creates like a fun like atmosphere, which I feel like the record has a lot of like brought to life where it feels like that.
Thanks. Yeah. That's the vibe we were looking for. You know?
Definitely. Lyrically, I know, I don't know if you want to touch on this, but also like there was a bit of like some tragedy like strike, which is kind of what inspired some of it.
Yeah. Okay. I don't mind talking about that. That's one of the big things with the record. It is a mental health record. It is one of these, which I feel like is almost like a new genre these days, you know. Mental health is being, you know, taken a lot more seriously these days for sure. A lot more people in therapy trying to, you know, make things better. I had a buddy of mine that I'd known since junior high, Topher Erickson, good dude. Lost his battle with drug addiction and his own mental health. You know, he had struggled with schizophrenia for a long time and didn't tell anyone about it, just medicated and stuff like that, and just kind of lost his battle with that and took his own life in 2018. And that was super hard for everybody in Dead Vinyl and for myself. And when it comes to mental health and therapy and stuff like that, sometimes therapy isn't going into an office and sitting on the leather couch and being like, well, my mom hit me or whatever, you know, like that's like, sometimes it can be a totally different thing, like writing 9 songs about a friend that you miss that, you know, is no longer there, you know. And that's what this was for me. This was like a therapy. Putting pen to paper and writing these songs felt like kind of getting my own closure on it. And in a weird way, you know, I even kind of talking to Topher a little bit, you know, after he was gone, you know, finding my own way to talk to him through the music, you know.
Yeah, I think a lot of especially songwriters, not musicians in general, but songwriters especially use their music as like that cathartic experience. Like, how do I even say that? Because I think that's therapy as far as like at the root. It's like you having to be honest with yourself and actually say the things that like you want to say. And sometimes it's hard to tell a stranger, but writing a song about it, like, you know, and you knowing exactly like what you're expressing, like, you know, you don't have to explain really to anybody. to anybody in particular so that they understand where you're coming from. It's like, oh,
Right.
I know what I'm saying. And just the act of like saying it and putting on a record or writing these things, or even like you're saying, like talking, you feel like you're speaking to like that person and actually trying to process through it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it is, if it's something that can help someone else get through a hard time like that, then the record will have done its job. That's really what it is I hope that it reaches the right audience of people that can cope with grief in a healthy way. I mean, that's really what it is, I think.
So lyrically, is it just kind of just inspired by this, or some of these songs like experiences?
A lot of them are really on the nose.
Okay.
Dance on My Grave is one of those. All the Way Gone. Those are some of the ones that are really on the nose about it. But I think a lot of the songs are, Hotel Jumpin's really just about touring with the band and stuff like that. I had to throw a couple songs that weren't such a bummer topic, in there. Because I think I'd said in a previous interview is like, I didn't want to start releasing singles and drop this record that was like right off the bat, like boom, like my friend is dead, listen to me. Like I don't want to do that to people. Like that's not the right vibe I want. But I want it to feel upbeat and poppy and fun, and I don't know if dancey is the right word, but if you want to dance to it, that's cool. But like there's substance there too. There's substance. There's hopefully some substance in there for you.
No, I think it actually maybe allowed me to, I don't know, like the way the record flows, it starts off like with these really like fun, like poppy songs and you're like into it, but it put me in like a good headspace to like when I got to the heavier songs, like I was immediately like, wasn't put off by like how like, it's a depressing nature. It's like sad. It's something like,
right.
I was like, oh, like I'm good. Like to hear this, like, this is like a nice like flow of like what the album did.
Okay, good. Yeah. That's what we're going for.
It felt like a nice transition into, it's like, oh, okay. Like where I was, cause like I heard All the Way Gone and I felt like kind of good about that song.
Yeah. That's what it's meant to do for sure, is to kind of pull you up from that.
Yeah, which is, I think that's kind of what I felt. Because even like the really like, because I listened to it maybe a few times before I try to dissect what it was about. Because I do like enjoying records without knowing what they're about.
Sure,
first.
Yeah, just going in blind and trying to feel for yourself on it.
Yeah,
totally.
Because it's definitely mostly for me feel first. So like instrumentation, like even just melodies, like vocal melodies and how like stuff gets structured. Yeah. And then I learned as I get older, like I used to like always look up I used to be very analytical, so I would look up lyrics first and be like, okay, that's what this song says.
Use a little Genius. I remember those days.
Yeah. And now I'm definitely more like, how do I enjoy like the actual like record? And it's cool because it turns out it makes you feel like sometimes different things than what it's about, or sometimes like it aligns, you know what I mean? So like things like that are really cool. And then I look up later and be like, oh, okay, so that was it about, because I didn't obviously like I didn't know at all like about the passing of your friend, like when I was listening to the record, like I was just listening to it and taking it as what it is. But it also is cool to see what art comes out of like these, like really like
these awful tragedies. Sometimes something, you try to make something beautiful out of it if you can. So as a blind listen, not knowing what it was about, did the feel change still feel the kind of same? Was you like, oh, we're up here now, and then we're kind of cut down in the middle here, and then now we're coming back up and we're out? Did it still feel like that?
No, that's the way I took it, because like I took a lot of energy, and it was definitely, maybe that's why I took it in a more like smoother feel, because I wasn't looking for it, like,
You're not looking.
I would have been looking for like the drop, you know what I mean? Like, oh, like when's it gets it? If I would have known that that's what like inspired the record, I would have been like searching for it.
Right.
I feel like I didn't, so it just felt like a ride.
Just felt, it felt that move right there. Yeah. And that is such an important part of making, like ordering the songs in a record, which I know in a world of singles and TikToks and 30-second attention spans, records don't have much play. But if you're gonna build a record, you've got to order those songs in a way that's going to give you some sort of a thing. It can't go like this the whole time. It's can't be up, down, up, down, up, down. You got to order them in this way that makes the record flow and feel like a lazy river, Yeah.
Yeah, no, I personally like that experience more. It's tough though, because like finding the right, even just time to enjoy records like as a whole,
right,
is hard. And like when we're talking about like getting older and stuff like that, and just like responsibility things like that, even like things like that, we're just like, oh, when do I have time to sit down and just listen to the entire record together?
Right. Yeah. When do I have 45 minutes?
Because it makes sense that way. Like you never would have, if I would have thrown that shit on shuffle, like then it might have experienced like,
you would have seen a whole different record,
which I hate. Like sometimes like I'll start streaming a new album and then it'll be accidentally on shuffle and it fucking ruins all of it.
You're like, what the hell? It's just like, Oh, especially if you get into the songs that kind of are supposed to flow into each other.
Oh yeah.
And then it just goes to a whole other song. You're like, what the hell is this about?
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, no,
I guess we'll pick up on that later.
It literally feels like I forgot what record I was listening to, and then I heard like a song like this feels like it should be at the end. Why is it like third up? And I looked, it was on shuffle, and it was the last song of the album. And I was like, I felt like, damn, I just spoiled the fucking album.
Well, you blew the ending. Yeah, you blew the ending. Yeah, that's hilarious.
But it's cool because yes, like albums get structured just like stories do, you know, just like movies do. Like you want a certain feeling, and that's why, like, especially if someone's taking the time to write an entire album, normally that's something everybody takes into account. Like, how does this go together?
Right?
How can we, like, again, how can it feel like it's not jumbling? Unless the purpose is for you to get shaken up, but for the most part,
that is like, the thing. Yeah. But I think most records, you do want to have that sort of direction, just like you would with a movie, you know, or a book. I that's a great analogy for that too, because it is like it is its own little contained story in a way, for sure.
Yeah. So do you lean one way or another when it comes to like albums or
I always go albums. I'm such an old school dude. I love albums. I've got records. I've probably got about 800 something records that are like old vintage records, and you know, I still absorb music better that way. Singles are cool, you know. I mean, a lot of people put out singles these days, and I do listen to them. But I when I'm sitting down and enjoying, you know, a glass of Jameson and just chilling and listening to a record, I'll let that just whole thing flow into me, you know.
Yeah, I consume it both ways, but just like I guess I'm differentiating like singles from an upcoming album, or there are bands that just write like a one-off song, you know, and just write like, and those like songs aren't meant to go with anything,
right?
Like, so those are the ones that sometimes like I'll listen to them, like I really like this, and then the next release is just something completely like different, and I'm like, I would have liked to see like where this goes, but depending on what level, I guess I expect it out of. I do understand, obviously, as a musician, like just the cost of getting an album done, and just again, we're looking at time, we're looking at like who you're going to record all this stuff with.
No
like,
more stimulus checks, man.
They're
what
gone.
The hell?
And just getting that done. So like, I think when I see a lot of like, you know, smaller bands or local bands like releasing just like one-off singles, like I completely understand, like, because you have to ration whatever you're doing, because you're trying to build yourself up to where you get to a point where, if you release an album, people are going to pay attention to it. Not you release an album like, well, fuck, people will just like aren't talking about it anymore. Right, we spent all this like time on it.
Well, they have these, you know, these marketing things that you're supposed to be doing, and if you do write like a 9 or 10 or 12 or 15 track record, they want you to take like 6 of them and release one song as a single every month or 2 months or something, just to keep you relevant throughout the year. You know what I mean? Like there's marketing moves like that you got to do to try to make it work. I decided on the record I did, BARTALK, to just do 2 singles because it is such a conceptual record that I didn't want to separate too much from it. Yeah. To kind of make it disjointed sounding or anything to anyone when they heard it, or when they only just heard one issue of this hardcover that I'm releasing or whatever, you know, to put it into comic book terms. But like, I mean, trying to just do one single every couple of months to get the ball rolling. I totally get it. You know, it makes
it makes sense. I've seen people attempt it in different ways. I saw, actually, I think I bring this one up a lot, but the band Sleep Token released their first actual album, and they released a single every 2 weeks until they released the entire album. So every song was out, and
everything was out as a single.
Everything was out as a single. So like every single pack would include the previous song, right? So you could listen to them all in order. But like the only song, like when the album released, the only song you were missing was the last one.
Right.
So like you had already heard the whole album, and to me, to this day, that album feels like I love that band, and that's like my favorite band. But still, that album feels like an entire album of singles to me because that's the way I consumed.
That's the way you consumed it. What, it was every 2 weeks.
Every 2 weeks.
How many tracks was on that record?
12, I think.
12 tracks. So for wow.
Now
24 weeks. You're just
people were again like as far as like people talking about it, release this and that. It just for me now looking back at it, I now hear that album as like. I feel like it's an album of singles put together.
Right.
I don't hear it as a.
I would feel that was like a show or something that I was watching, where you like catch an episode every.
It's kind of, and that might have been what they were trying to do because I don't remember what they did on the next record, but the record after that, they did. I think they did like a song. They were doing something similar to that, but they stopped at like. Four. Right. They waited like a month, I think, and released another one. And then right before the album release, they released like one more. But it was still like, what I liked about that is that we had a lot of singles, but when I went back and listened to the album when it came out, it still felt like I was listening to
the whole album.
To the whole album.
Yeah. To something that
so
felt
I'm like okay, they might have like tweaked it because of like what it is. So, but there's like different release strategy. And it always sucks when you think about as like the artist angle of that because who really wants to think about like how they have to release something so that it stays relevant? I mean, some of it might be like fun if you work things into it. Like I've seen people like release certain pieces of like content or like movie. Like I bring up to like Childish Gambino released an album called Because of the Internet, and they released like a short film, and then they released like a script when the album came out.
And apparently their label to that?
Their label fucked it up. Apparently, I can't remember how they did it, but they put So their album had a script to it, and you would read the script. It was online. If you bought I guess the big vinyl, they had it there. But online, you would read the script. You would play like a snippet of a video. It wasn't a music video. It was just like a random snippet of like what looked like a movie, like a clip, like a scene of a movie, and then you would say like play this song right here, and then you would play like the song and then read it that way. I'm like, that's pretty fucking cool.
That's really cool. That's like some cross genre shit right there.
Yeah, I like
cross
that
medium.
I like that aspect of like releasing things in interesting ways, like that. Like that must be fun to plan,
Yeah.
But thinking of like, we need like a single here, a single there, so people keep talking, or like the thing that cringed me the fuck out was like labels asking their artists to like, you have to like create a TikTok so they create this amount of like views. I'm like,
make sure you post every day.
Fuck, like that just makes me feel so fucking I don't know. Like I have I love-hate relationship obviously with social media when it comes to like art because of what which I think it's just like at the top what they're gonna want you to do is like, if you because I think a label at the end of the day they're just trying to make like whatever money back or money off of it. So they're gonna plan like the surefire. They see something working for somebody else. It's like, you do that, versus trying to just look at the artist like, okay, what works for you just personally? Like, what can we create off that?
And how do you build your audience with what your audience likes or something? I don't know. It's hard to pin that down. Social media, for all of the cool shared hive mind thing it makes us fucking think, and there's so much art, there's more art now than ever, everybody's got art they're putting out. It does poison the well just a little bit with the
with the things that feel disingenuous. Like if it doesn't feel like it's actually you, I feel like I don't know if it's as I've gotten older, I just detect that like so much quick, like more.
Your bullshit
like
detector is
and I'm just like, like I don't want to watch this. It doesn't feel like fun. It doesn't feel real. It doesn't feel like you're actually doing like what you want to do.
Right.
And that feels. But you see people doing some random shit that's just legitimately them, and it's fun, even if you do like it's not your thing, like as long as they're doing it it's cool. I'm like I really enjoy that, and that's what I think when it comes with everything, like with like just enjoying music or movies or shows or whatever. Like if you like something and I don't like it, that's fucking cool. You know what I mean? Like I don't have to, I don't have to shit on people.
We don't all have to do the one thing. I get it. Yeah, it's just social media, man. That's what those managers. They'll text you every day and just, how are the Instagram Reels coming? How are the TikToks coming? You doing one every day? You getting one done every day? No, dude. No, absolutely not.
And I've had like So that's what I've tried to analyze, especially like, because that's what in Noise Rod and stuff, that's what I'm in charge of, is like how to create that stuff.
Oh yeah.
And
I love you guys' content though. To be fair, I do love you guys' content.
So the approach that I've taken to do with everyone is like, let's do like we're only doing things that we find fun. So what do we actually like would watch? You know, I'm not going to make something that I hate, or we're just doing it because everybody else is doing it. So how do we make stuff that's fun? And I have everybody coming up with like ideas to do stuff. So we're all working together. So it's not just like what I think is funny or like what I think would be good. Like DJ will send me ideas, like Bernice sends me ideas, and we all like work through it together. And it's like, okay, what is actually real? You know what I mean? Like,
the man on the street bits are the best. I love those.
Those are fun.
Where you're just out at a show and just being like, "What's the worst song you've ever heard?" or whatever.
Yeah. It's funny because like that you just the amount of perspectives that you gain. Because like I forgot I think we were at a hardcore show, and I was doing the bit where like I was asking some people like, what's your favorite song like right now, and then we would go play it for somebody else,
and then you play it for somebody, and then it changed,
and it would change, and I'm like, and then you see everybody's like different tastes. Like yes, they're all at a hardcore show, but this like jumped from like, you know, like super soft indie shit to like hip hop to like I go, dude, that's
somebody was like Under the Sea by the Little Mermaid.
You know what I mean? Yeah, sometimes that's a banger. You need that one sometimes. But
hell yeah, dude.
But it's fun, yeah. But it's figuring out a way again for it to be real, and I'm like, those are easy because like those are real people out there.
That's the realest thing ever.
I don't have to do shit. Like I just have to literally like.
And they love sitting there and holding a little microphone and you know getting their chance to say the funny bit. You know, I love.
That's
that.
Another thing like that I noticed. I mean, when you are a show goer, like you're going to watch a performer, but some people like I was like, oh, I would like to be part of this experience.
Yeah,
like,
be a part of the show.
Exactly. You know, so it gives them a chance to do that.
I do love those bits. Those are. So I hope to find you doing one of those bits so that I can try to portray as a character. I'll have the glasses with the big fake nose and the mustache, so you won't know it's me at all. And I'm gonna give some crazy answers for you.
Heck yeah, I'm gonna find you. We'll set this up now.
Definitely postable stuff, you know.
Yeah, but so you were talking on this album particularly. So you wrote it, you put it out, but it's not something you currently plan on really playing live, or
I play it live. I play the songs live at like the solo shows that I do. I do a bunch of solo shows, which are always fun. Definitely doesn't give the same vibe as the record. It's a totally different sound of the song. I mean, they're the same songs, but it's the difference between having a full band song and just one dude playing it on acoustic guitar. You know, that's different. But yeah. I mean, if I found the team to do it with, and again, like I said, it's hard to tell who played what on that record, so I wouldn't have a good reference point for like, well, who played this guitar line? I'd be like, shit, man, I don't know. I got 3 people you can call. Yeah, ask them; they might know. But if I found the right team, I might do it. I mean, doing it with Dead Vinyl has always been a kind of on the back of my head too, thinking about doing that with them. But this is such a honest and kind of a real ass record for me that I feel like I don't want to change any of the parts of it up. And Dead Vinyl loves to do that with songs. They love to change parts up and be like, what if we did it 5 times as long? Okay. Yeah. So maybe one day I'll get a show out there and we'll do it. I'll probably put out another record first. I've got more songs I've got enough songs now in the thing. I'm going to start demoing those and kind of go about it the same way I did this last one, where I'll probably take it to Nolan and say, you up for this again? You know? Like, let's ride this bitch one more time.
I mean, the formula is working, like, which I think it really
great.
did on that album.
I think in those smaller groups is where my songwriting tends to thrive more. And I don't know if that's something that's relatable or not, but it's because a lot of people like, you know, sometimes the bigger isn't always better. You know, like smaller groups, less noise going on creatively. You know, I like good creative language in a studio. So when you're in a studio, it's always good to have someone that's not always just busting out the nose on everything. Because you do find those people in the studios sometimes. No, we're not going to do that. We're going to do this. We're going to do it because it's easier. Or we're going to do it because it takes less time. You know, you get those people in studios sometimes. Yeah. This experience was not like that. This experience was very much so just 2 or 3 people at a time, really working parts out, really fleshing things out. And I love that experience. So I'm going to go with that method again, I think, for this next record, for sure.
Seems like you found like the right like realm to let your creativity not only like breathe, but like actually give it time to come out instead of like, if it's not working, like let's move on. Yeah, like, give me time to actually figure stuff out and like work through it.
And really get it to say what it's trying to say, the song that is, you know.
Especially with like a project with like this meaning behind it, like you would definitely want an environment like that.
Yeah, you want it to hit the right tone. Tone is important for sure, lyrically and sonically, you know. And with Dead Vinyl, it's not that it's bad with Dead Vinyl. Dead Vinyl is just more of like, we're going to practice the fuck out of these songs at our practice space so that when we get to the studio, we can just boom, 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 boom with these things, knock them out and really not spend much time on trying to get it to sound right sonically, because we already did that at the practice space, trying to really flesh things out there. It's usually a time-sensitive thing when we're in the studio with Dead Vinyl. And again,
it's more people too.
It's more people, and everything takes longer with more people. 5 dudes plus a producer plus an engineer, you know, and we're talking about a much larger group here. And it's always going to take more time to set up. It's going to take more time to break down. It's going to take more time to talk about what song we're going to do. It's going to take more time to do everything.
Yeah.
You know, it just takes more time. And it's not bad. It's just more time consuming.
It's just different. Yeah. It's just a different experience. And I think with this, again, you were talking about like how everyone has like an opinion of the band. It's a lot more people fighting with that. With this, if you have a specific vision for it, I think from what you're describing, like working with Nolan and Taylor, it's more like they're trying to interpret the vision that you have
that
for
I have
writing
and push that forward. Yeah. Whereas Dead Vinyl, everyone loves to have the opinion that they have, or not. And we're all working in service of the song for sure. It's just more like, you know, we all want to feel like we contributed to the song. Yeah. So they all want to put their part in that's making them feel like they contributed. And that's good. That's good. And we're all pushing that forward as a team, you know, as opposed to just a couple people pushing one person's thing. It's all of us pushing all of our things, which again, not bad, just time consuming. Just very time consuming. I mean, it takes us... We're going to have a new EP that is the companion EP that we put out last year. Dead Vinyl did. Last year we put out an EP called Day Shift. And then this year, hopefully by the end of this year, we'll have the companion EP to that called Night Shift. And then you put them together, Day Shift, Night Shift. It's what do you call that? Where you work both? I haven't worked service industry in a long time. I forget that. A double. A double. That's what it is. Sorry. I have not worked service industry in a long time, but that's what they call it. Yeah. You know. So hopefully that'll be the full LP. Will be Dead Vinyl's double. You know. So, and hopefully that'll be out towards the end of the year. But again, that has taken us 3 years to try to get out. You know.
Wow.
Yeah, it's been a long time. And we're still going through it with a fine-tooth comb and being like, we like this part, we don't like this part, we're gonna redo this, you know. So we're still working on it.
How do you feel on that, on like having music like in the pocket for like a long periods of time? Because I think I would consider maybe anything, at least nowadays, anything like held on like over like a year to a year and a half is like,
it's going to go stale.
Yes.
It's going to go stale.
So how do you, is that like...
I agree. I think it goes stale after a little while. And, but then at this point, it's like now you have this thing that's in the can that you've had for a year and a half or something, or 2 years. And it's like, shit, well, I spent all that money on it. I probably should put it out. You know, sometimes it's like... It's like anxiety, really, that gets you. That's like, I don't want to put this out yet because I still got to do this thing, and I still got to do this thing, and I still got to do this thing. When really all that is actually wrong is that I'm just nervous to put something out.
Yeah.
Because it's nerve-wracking.
It is nerve-wracking.
To be like, hey, here's my art world. Here's what I sound like when I sing. Which I know is weird, but I guess here's what it sounds like. But it's nerve-wracking sometimes.
Yeah, that's what so when DJ and I actually had a band, like a metalcore band called Under Oblivion, and when we put out our first EP, the newest song on that EP was like 3 years old. And everything else like was older than that.
Yeah. Okay. So you know where this.
So yeah. So I would, and that's why I bring that up quite a bit, because I definitely like know that. But I remember in my head thinking, I'm like, damn, if we would have put this out when like it was written,
when you started,
and it was like, you know, at that era, it's like this would have hit like this, like now it's like, oh, I think it's just like gone. And then like again, I think we released singles later, and it was like 2 singles, and it's still. At their time of their release, they were 2 years old, like both of them.
Yeah,
you know, so it was,
and they felt
I kept
stale when you played them, and
because we were already writing new things. We just had we had the nitpicking like problem where we were like, it's not there yet, you know, and the things that we would change would be so like minuscule that wasn't like worth the wait.
Right, unless you are a musician, you would have probably not noticed this one little tiny thing that you changed in this riff that made it to this thing or whatever. I totally
because we were talking about it the other day, and we were just like. I think we were going through like our Google Drive or something, and I was like, "Oh, like look at all these songs that we were working on, like when we like
ready to put out into the world."
You know, it's just like I was like, "Why didn't we just like put these out? Like they would have like they could have been cool or whatever." But
it's that critical mind, you know, that gets you, that wants you to just work on something until it just becomes dust. But like eventually, you really do got to just put it out. And I mean, you got to think about the content that you're stifling that doesn't have a chance to come out now because you're waiting so long to put this thing out.
You should be writing the next thing. You should
be going to the next thing.
Yeah.
Write the next thing. You know, I mean, and if there's an idea you wanted to put into this song, we've been waiting 3 years on it. Let's take that idea. Let's apply it to a new song. Let's do that.
And I think that's what happens.
Let this song do its thing.
You know you're getting better, so you think you can make this song better.
Right.
But really, you should just put this out and make the next one better.
Make the next thing better. Yeah, this is not the last thing we're ever going to do. Let's put the next thing out.
But it always feels like that. It always feels like this is the most important thing that I can work on right now.
This is my magnum opus.
You know what I mean? And then you like, when you're writing the next thing, you're like, this is way better than that. And you realize like how much time like you could have spent like on working.
I've had hundreds of favorite Dead Vinyl songs, and that's because we keep writing better and better songs every time. We just got to get better about putting them out. I think is the thing.
Yeah,
putting them out, not getting so self-conscious maybe about what they sound like. And I mean, again, with the solo record too. I mean, the solo record took me 2 years to put out, and that was because of the same thing. Again, that was a whole record, but there was just constantly something. I was like, I'm going to go back to the studio one more time. This is it. And this is one more time.
You were recording down in Austin, right? Or
it was in Dripping Springs.
Dripping Springs, okay.
Yeah, which is like right near Austin. It was a nice little studio down there that Tatch owned called Audio Styles.
Okay.
And it was one of those badass ones where it was like you sleep in the studio. So it's a little studio, and then there's like a little kind of like a kitchenette over here with a free fridge and a bunk bed above it. And so it was just like you could sleep there, and it was like living and breathing studio for several days. And plus, it's out in the middle of nowhere, which is so great for distraction and things like that. I've done studios that have been, you know, above a bar or something like that, you know, and it's just too easy to be like, all right, break time, let's go grab a drink. You know, like it's like with this, it's like there is nothing to do out in this studio except make a record. So it kind of keeps your mind in the moment of the record, which is cool.
I did used to see that a lot more. It might just be I'm not paying attention anymore, but bands or artists that would go and write a record in the studio. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah. Okay.
And I always found that so nerve-wracking because of the way, and obviously with like the time of how like stuff got put out and like my writing style, it was always like, no, I need to make sure this is done so I don't go in there and like not be ready. But like I remember seeing that a lot. It's like, oh, you know, people would walk in with like maybe bare bones to like songs and be like, all right, we're writing this here. I think what I didn't really realize at the time is how people worked with producers and stuff like that. So people who like in collaborative be like, hey, so because and I still don't understand because even when we recorded our first EP, like I think that's what they were like the engineer was trying to do. They were trying to help us like with songwriting, but we weren't having it. So so that's kind of caused like an issue.
Where are the songwriters in this situation?
That's kind of it, you know. And I'm like, you know, and now I always wonder is like, what would have happened if we would have let a little input in here? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, that's kind of part of their job as producers is to be like, this part you're playing doesn't work.
And I think it was just like, just being hard-headed about it.
Him to trust him about that opinion. You know?
And I think that was it. I just think we hadn't built that up yet. You know what I mean? The trust, or I think that's probably why we had like the issue. I think that's an
important part of it is building trust with your producer, going with someone that you can trust to steer your music into the right lane, you know, and stay there until it's seen to fruition. You know?
Was this the first time you had worked with Nolan, or?
No, I'd worked with Nolan in the past in studios. Like I said, we'd known each other for a long time. And since high school, really, since we were freshmen in high school, we've known each other, and we'd been in bands together like all our lives, and so he had a band called the Hendersons, obviously, that I mentioned earlier, that does that Baroque pop thing, you know. And I was actually in that band, 15 years ago or something, because that band has been around forever, and it's really just Nolan's name for his project. When he puts out music, it goes under the Hendersons. Oh, okay. But it's all Nolan, basically, at the head of that show. And I was a guitar player / keyboard player / backup vocalist for a very brief amount of time in like 2010, 2011. Okay. So, yeah, that was good times. And then I decided I wanted to do more rock and rolly, heavier stuff. And so me and Tyler Vela went off and made our own rock and roll bands. Yeah, so. But yeah, I mean, he and I have been studio mates before. This is the first time I think we've done it like in our real ass adulthood. I think, you know, we were pretty much kids before, you know, we weren't teenagers, but we were damn close. And so, yeah, this is like a much more mature version of ourselves coming into the studio, and being mature is important, because, you know, being mature means learning how to take criticism on your songwriting or something like that, you know?
Yeah. So that brings you back to a phrase that you were saying, like in service of the song. And that's what I think early on into like my writing career is what I didn't really take into account when I would hear criticism, is that it was always like a personal attack on like what I was doing. It's like,
how dare you?
It's basically like you
besmirch my art, dude.
You know what I mean? Yeah. And then the people saying it to me were the people in my own band. So I was like, oh, like the reason like they're saying this is not because they are just trying to like put me down or whatever. It's like they're trying to write a good song. Like this is their song too. You know what I mean?
They want to be able to play something that they enjoy.
Yeah, and it's dumb. I felt after like years of writing music is that simple concept: writing stuff that you actually like and enjoy playing stuff. Like I should be.
God knows you're gonna play it enough.
Yes, you know, like, and I'm like, oh, that's so simple. But yes, you should have like fun writing and playing like what you are like putting out. Like you should be proud of that stuff. You should be. And I remember always being like, someone would play like one of the songs and be like, like, you know, don't say that. And it was more not me being shy about it. It was more like, oh, I don't really like that. Like, so why are you playing? You know, and then it took that flip switching to be like, oh, you know, I don't like, I'm taking like this band like in the wrong like
right. Yeah,
you know,
that's again, that's that creative positive language. When you're in a creative space like that and you're with these other creatives, language is so important. How you say something, the tone you use. You don't want to seem like an asshole, but can we maybe try something different on this instead of like, no, don't play that. That's not good. You know, like we don't want to make someone feel like they got their hands slapped away for trying to just like give you a hand, you know, like trying to help you with your fucking song, man.
Yeah. Especially because that's what I think is I grew up playing guitar, but I played like classical guitar, and then I played.
No shit! Nylon string classical. Were you in like jazz band in high school?
Not in jazz band. No, it was literally like they made a classical guitar like class that I was like in.
No shit.
All like middle school, and then like in high school, like too, like a couple years in high school.
Can you read sheet music?
I did at the time. Like I was doing like the competitions and whatnot. Playing those pieces. Yeah,
dude. That's a skill right there.
And then, which now I know some. Like I can look at it and be like, but it's not as well polished. But like, so that's what like I came out of. So like when I joined a band, it was because I wanted to sing, you know. But I think I tried playing guitar, which is like electric guitar, and I'm like, this will translate, and I'm like, it really doesn't. Like, and I bought like so much expensive shit. I was that person, and I am so glad I stopped.
You got the gear and everything.
I would buy everything for whatever the fuck I was doing first, and I'm like, all right, now let's figure this shit out. And I'm like, oh, I'm like $1,000 in the hole, like, and I'm like, I suck.
I bought every pedal at that Guitar Center, and they fucking still can't do it.
Still sounds terrible. But yeah, so when I started singing, like I was relying on other people like writing those songs. So learning how to have the right like, you know, language for like to create was like, okay, because they're helping me trying to write something that I can like sing on or I can do this on, you know. So we need to be able to communicate like these things to each other to figure out how to write an actual song that we're gonna like, you know.
Man, songwriting. My true passion. I do love it. And it's hard to do with other people, man.
Have you ever written for anybody else?
I've never written for anybody else. I've collaborated with Nolan many times on Henderson songs. and other just random stuff, you know. And obviously, my main writing partners are always Tyler Vella, who's the guitar player for Dead Vinyl, or Nolan. Because he's just, those are like my two major writing partners that I work with. I'm open to anyone out there listening. If you want to write a song with me, I'll do it. I'm not opposed to it. You know, I'm not like picking favorites. But I'd love to. I have so many songs that it would be cool to offshoot a couple of them to another band, you know, if they're interested in making that happen. But I don't know. Collaboration's always a little weird, you know.
Very. Even just like I've sat in, I know what started helping me branch out a little more was just sitting in studio sessions with people. You were looking at the pictures and pointed out like Riker, but I sat in on Riker like recording the last EP that he did.
Oh yeah,
because he actually recorded at TG's at the apartment. So I sat in and was listening, and I would hear like his tracks and like what he's written instrumental. I'm like, that's cool, and then I would come up with my own melodies in my head and be like, oh, this is kind of what I would do. And then hearing what he put on it, I'm like, it's not at all close to what I would do.
Thought,
you know?
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's so fucking cool because Riker's really fucking talented. And I'm just like, I go, just that alone, like seeing the perspective of like, or like seeing even how people work, like how they creatively like go through
how
and
their
write
brain
something.
works in comparison to like, do they think of those lyrics first, or do they think of the chords first, or do they think of the melody first? I mean, those are always big things, you know. The three big things are those big deals. And which one are you going to land on first? Which Pokemon are you choosing to do this with, you know? And then that's just, for some people, it's like I always think of the melody first, or I always think of the chord progression first, or I always think I'm a lyric guy. I always think of a line first so that I have the phonetic boppiness going first.
Ooh, okay.
So when you have like, I'll hear a turn of phrase or something like that, and then you take that and you go, okay, that kind of sounds dun 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 dun, and you can kind of find the melody through the phonetics of the line. Yeah. So that's I don't know. That's one way to do it, but yeah, seeing somebody else's process and being able to kind of absorb their whatever, their mojo, you know?
No, absolutely. Because I think I always bring up that Riker session. I bring up, it was a session with my buddy Dizzy. His name is Dizzy Davis, and he raps. And I saw him come in. I'm like, he was like tracking, he's like 3 songs like that night. And I'm like, okay, so do you have them done? He's like, no, I'm going to figure them out like right now. I'm like,
oh shit.
Okay. Like he must be like, he's probably going to scratch something out and come back later or whatever. And he laid down 3 songs that night, figuring out melodies, choruses, and like verses and stuff that were good. And I'm like,
damn, dude.
I was just looking, I'm like, I would have spent here the same amount of time you did and came up with a melody maybe for the chorus.
Maybe,
like, you know, and I still wouldn't know what I would be saying, you know?
I always love people in studios that can do that. That can just work and work super hard and come out on the other side with, you said it's 3 songs?
It was like 3 I think he did.
Oh,
yeah.
shit.
And again, I think like 2 of them
so admirable.
had like actual like choruses that would work into it. I'm like, and like hooks. You know, I'm like,
yeah.
Dude,
and that's the hardest part right there.
Yeah, I just have like kind of an idea. Like he had like maybe concepts of stuff that he was doing, but nothing like written or whatever. And I'm like, that's fucking great. Like I was just like seeing it the whole time, just sitting there, just like, bro, like what am I doing? I need to up my vocabulary or something.
or like someone like that might even just like that critical mind, like I was talking about earlier. His critical mind is so hushed in the studio that he's able to just go, here's the thing I got. Let's just try it. Boom, done. Okay, that sounds great. Let's stick with that. On to the next thing. Here's this. Boom, that sounds great. Let's do that. Boom, and he just comes out the other side. Yeah, he's got it all done. It's like, wow, man.
Yeah, I always feel like such incredible pressure. So I'm the one that likes to have like, let me have this at home so that I can just hear this on repeat, and then
I'll beat the shit out of myself about it at home.
At home, yeah.
And I'll come back and kind of know what I want.
It looks effortless, like in front of you, but like, yeah, because we would. I remember one of the songs that we wrote like as a band together. Like they had figured out instrumentally like some of it, and I was just like sitting there and just like going over, and we would practice these songs live. Like this is before like we were sending stuff like files back and forth or anything like that. We were just like, the only time we would hear this is when we were all together, you know, so we were listening. So I was just there. I go, my only thing always is like, just loop it, just keep playing it. And I'm like, okay. And just, I think the way I'd normally like work, and it's how I started working after that, was I would listen to it. I would hum or sing melodies like into the mic, but then I would like figure out what the first like word I would say in something, and then it's like whatever word that was, I'm like, why did I say that? And then it would like branch out and make sense, like form a picture like that way. But it would, I think I would write like one line of it, and then it's like, okay, this song made me say this. Now I got to figure out why the fuck I said this.
Now, where does that branch out to?
Exactly. And figuring out that way. But I've always been melody, or because it was metalcore, like I was screaming too. So cadences. My screams were always cadences. So it was like rhythm. Like I need to know like what rhythm like,
it needs to go ba 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 ba. Yeah.
Exactly. And then I'm like, okay, we'll figure out once I had like a subject, it's like I can figure out how to fit it into here.
Right. Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah. That's such a cool, like, and with bands like that too, like metalcore bands, that is a whole nother aspect of it, is that cadence to be able to, because everything is so on it and it's so quick. Yeah. It's so quick, and you got to be on the nuts with that shit, man. Oh.
Another thing we discovered like in the studio where like our drummer was like, I kind of got it. I was like, you need to have these like really, really down.
Yeah.
Like, it's not as like loose feeling as like some of the other bands that he was like, he played with. And it was like, so these like, from what I've been told, like metalcore like has to be like, you have to be playing actually on
the nuts.
Yeah. And he experienced that where it's like, oh shit, I'm not like playing that at all or whatever. And apparently like I've talked to like more people nowadays in like programming is like the commonplace with metal and like metalcore.
Oh,
like,
really?
It looks
programming
like
the beats so that they're just always on.
A lot of people like are just doing like that now for workflow. Like, and it's crazy because like there's a lot of like stuff to make. Because there's who did I have in here? I had I had Jordan from a band called From Joy, and their shit is fucking nuts, like, and intense, and it's sounds really good. And I thought he was drumming like on it, and it's programmed. Yeah, really? Like if you listen to it, like But the thing is, he can play that. He's like this. I go, the only thing, like, one, it helps. It's easier to write out stuff like that. But he's like, I don't program stuff that I can't play, which is the issue with a lot of people.
That is a key probably for it, isn't it?
So
don't
like, you have
program
to program
something you can't play.
He's like, the only thing is if I'm recording, like we're spending studio time. Yeah. He's like, and I can play this, but it's probably going to be one out of how many times. So like it's all this time that like you know doesn't necessarily need to be spent, and figuring out like how to work them to where they sound real. Because apparently there's like it sounded so weird to me, but they brought out, it's like a humanization that they add to like program drums. So like it'll do different like intensities on different hits, but they'll go in after they add that and then even tweak it further to where it actually sounds like what
they call it humanization.
Yeah, it literally freaked me out when I was like, what? And I was like, because I did
allow me to humanize your drums.
Because I did a drummer podcast, and I had like all that, but they were all like some sort of metal, and I was like, oh, is that commonplace? 'Cause I remember like when I was like in a band, that felt like it was a very big stigma, like in my eyes. I'm like, oh, you're not playing live? Like, what do you mean? Like, because we tried so much, but we had the same issue, like with our drummer personally, is that he couldn't play like on time, like basically, you know what I mean? Like as much as like we were, but that was a whole other thing. But that was our thing. Like we always felt like, damn, it was always like, damn, we have to go with program drums.
Drums. How does the scene of like hardcore and metalcore feel about that? Does that feel like something that is taking over your industry in a like AI is going to eat everything kind of way, or does it feel like it's actually just another easy way to kind of go, or like maybe a new wave of the music or something?
I think in hardcore, I don't think they use program as much, because at least for me and what I look at hardcore, like it feels you need that sort of like how would I describe that? I don't know. It's just this intensity and like attitude behind like the drum. So if it I feel like if it feels messy, like it just adds more to like the actual like music.
Right. Yeah.
But in like, I guess metal, like metalcore, the more like precise stuff or even like proggy stuff, I feel like that's where they're maybe leaning towards program. Now that I'm learning that, because I didn't know that. Because I was listening to them, like, dude, I couldn't tell on those. Like, and I feel like before I'd be like, oh, I can tell which ones are
computers and which ones are real.
And I'm like, oh, like I didn't think those were like, you know. So it's getting better. And just I think that's the whole attitude behind it. Like I don't like the act of like it taking completely over to where you're not even creating anymore,
right?
Or you're not even worried about like how I play it live, or if I can actually play it. Like that was the issue. But I think if you can actually play that and it saves time and create, I'm like, I don't have an issue with it necessarily.
It just, it makes it, if it makes it easier for someone just making songs in their bedroom, I mean, why not? I mean, I guess I do voice acting as part of part of my like daytime living.
Oh, okay.
I do a little bit of voice acting, and the voice acting industry is festooned right now with AI, whatever, you know. And so people are, but people can kind of still tell the difference between someone who is talking authentically on a commercial versus someone who is trying to sell you a car on a commercial, and it's just very computer sounding.
Yeah.
But you can still see this clear difference with you know, the sound of a computer voice versus a real person. Like using the words that you were using earlier, it's like there's an intensity and there's like a there's a like a genuineness to it that you can tell with a real voice. Same with the drummers, you know. I mean, with a drummer, I'm sure you can tell there's this genuineness and this intensity that you can feel that is humanizing the drums or whatever it was, you know? But like I was just curious if that was a thing or not, because in the industry I'm in, it's a pain in the ass with the AI stuff.
Yeah, that I think for like a long time, I'm going to have like a love-hate relationship with AI, because right now we can tell. We can. And like sometimes some of them take deeper glances or deeper listens to stuff or whatever, but you can point it out and be like, oh, this is real. Yeah. But there's sometimes where I'm like looking at something, I'm like, so I literally don't trust shit that I see like at all. Right? I'm just like, no, I'm not gonna like, if something like is happening like controversial and it's like someone talking to something, like, I don't even know if that's him. Like, I'm not even gonna,
I can't even
like some of them, like I can be like, cause I'll get like that where I'm like, oh, I can tell. And then there's shit that catches me off guard. I was like, oh, okay.
Didn't know that was AI. Okay. All right.
And that's just like, it's just ramping up. So that's the scary, like, cause like I've seen like the AI with like voice and like deepfakes. I've seen like there's a dude that pops up on like my feed every now and then, and he does deep fakes, but I can tell because he's doing them quick. So it's not. But I'm like, oh, I've seen another one where he's like, oh, I took I don't know how many fucking days to create this, and then I'm like, that looks like you know the thing, you know, like that. And there's a few that'll pop around. You don't hear about it like weeks later. If you hear about it at all, they're like, oh, that was fake. But in music, I like the idea of using it as a tool, but like
right.
Because I think it's just one of those things, like it's the next wave of like tools to be using, but I think you still need to like add the human touch to it. And that's what I mean.
Makes
like
everybody like music.
Yeah. When Jordan was talking about it, he was like we'll go in and like that, whatever humanization thing does a blanket thing. I go, but it's still not the way, you know, I would play. So he has to still go in and manually like tweak. He's like, no, I play like I hit, because like he's like sometimes it'll make a note really weak, and I'm like, I don't play it like that, so I'll have to go in and add that note. So you still have to go in. So I was like, I like that. Like I don't like the idea of just like, oh, just blanket it and it'll do this, because it'll still. I mean, one, it's missing stuff, and one, like there's something to that touch in the creative process of something. Now, if it's like to, I don't know, figure out like levels or something, like when you're recording things, I don't care about using AI on that.
I wouldn't care about that either.
Yeah,
I think there's application for it in many ways. It's just when you start getting into the part where it is the actual art, that's when it gets a little sticky.
So there's a thing there that I've been seeing people use, and it's basically like you go in and write a prompt about what you want a song written about, and it'll like, you could be like, oh, write a pop punk song about this, and it creates an entire song out of it, and like people are like, oh, this is good, and I'm like, the thing is like it's not like
is this good
like
though?
You think it's good, but it's that fleeting good where I'm like, I think it's more like, oh, this is an actual decent song, but you can feel that emptiness to it, like there's no soul behind it.
It's good, like McDonald's is good. It's like it's okay.
It's digestible.
It passes
but it's not,
the test of being able to eat it like human food, but
it's the whole like the art behind it that I would get like I would feel like we would be losing if people like completely like we're just writing this is like
I find all my lyrics on Chat GPT. Like, what?
I have I
get a freaking moleskin, dude.
I tried it, but I didn't like having to rely on it. And again, it could also be on my ego side of like, of not looking at it as like a tool and being like, no, I can figure this shit out. Like, I should be able to figure this shit out.
I should be able to use this tool in my toolbox.
Because somebody gave me the idea. It's like, because I'm like, I'm having trouble like figuring out, I think it was like, how to build like a social media strategy for something. It's like, and they're like,
I get those a lot
ChatGPT and this. Now I'm like, No, I want to figure it. But then also like look at them like, do I really give a fuck about like what the strategy would be? But then
I've
I'm
seen
like,
people use it for like ChatGPT for like, oh, here, give me 50. What do you call the thing below the picture in Instagram? Captions. Yeah, give me 50 captions. I need 50 captions. So I can just pull them, throw them in because you don't want to waste your time thinking of stupid fucking captions for your stupid fucking posts. You know?
And something like that. I'm like, I don't give a fuck because I could care less, and I'm pretty bad at captions. You know,
I'm
like,
always bad at captions. Yeah.
That's why, like in our team, like we have like DJ and like Bernice are way better. And like, dude, I figured out a formula. Like if you look at the podcast, all of them are a formula, and I'm like, I'll go in and specifically design it to whoever's on there. I go, but some of them are just like tagline, the episode, low, like, you know, because I'm like, I don't.
Couple emojis, we're out of here.
Yeah, you know what I mean, like anything like that. But yeah, I'm like, I don't think whatever. Like I don't want to worry about that. So for what seems to me like busy work, I like AI is fine for me.
I think one day it'll get to the point where it's like, you know, there's all of this music that's out there, and so much of it is computer generated, and so much, and then it became even more computer generated that like people like me who are out here banging on actual instruments and guitars and shit like that, that'll become like. To borrow a line from your business card, it'll be like boutique music, you know? Yeah. It'll be like boutique music, and it's all authentic, real vintage instruments or something like that, you know? It'll be like this.
It again, like I see, I'm definitely like, as I've gotten older, I weigh out like so many like options on stuff, because I always want to be like, I know I'm going to be wrong on some shit, but it's like when I was looking at when producers were getting bigger, where it's like I forgot who I saw a video of somebody who just makes like instrumentals for like stuff, and I'm like, oh, I know how to create like piano melodies, like everything melodies, like on here is like I can't play any instrument, like I just know how to do it here. So it was like my issue when that was coming up. I'm like, oh, but they don't know how to play the instrument. I'm like, oh, but this is a skill in itself, you know. Like
if you reverse the dichotomy, you don't know how to do any of the things he's doing.
You know what I mean?
Like,
yeah. So it's still like, yeah, it's that. So it's me still taking that into account and be like, okay, this is a new thing. How is it going to affect? Like, what am I really like mad at? But I think that again, like you can't. Something about AI in particular feels like if it overpowers like the actual like creativity behind it, then you're gonna lose like the soul, which is what music has, like,
which is what it's always been since the beginning of
since forever. Humans. Like, so that's the part I think people should really like focus on to try to like stick around, because that's what music has always had. Like at the root of it, like you've always had some sort of person behind it, not this
keep again the humanity like part. I mean, if everything else you got to reprogram, fine, but keep the humanity.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, because music comes from people. Definitely,
it comes from people, and it comes from fucking pain and joy and shit that fucking computers can't fucking understand. So that's really, I mean, if there's not going to be a good computer song about love because computers don't have love, and there's not going to be a good computer song about pain because computers don't have pain. You have pain. You're a human. So take that, pour it into a bottle, pour it into a page, and fucking make a song, dude. Come on. They're not going to do that part for you.
I like that. I think that's a good way to wrap this up. Hell yeah.
Hell yeah. Yeah. Computers, if you're listening, computers, come get me, dude. Fucking come get me.
Y'all are cool, okay, for the computer overlords of the future, all right?
We do that on our podcast where we are always like apologizing to the computer overlords for when the simulation finally happens, and it's going to be like, well, you did say some shit on that podcast, so we're going to put you in a cage and make you fucking Snickers for a year. Yeah, whatever.
But, thank you so much for stopping by, Hayden.
Thank you, awesome, man. Do you know when this will be out? Can I throw some plugs in?
This will be out next week.
Next Tuesday. Next Tuesday? Mm-hmm. Well, if you're out next Tuesday, then I'll tell you what. I'll throw some plugs. Is that okay?
Yeah, go for it.
I am playing a show at the Lost and Sound festival that is starting in Fort Worth. I will be playing in the parking lot of the Hot Box Biscuits. Nice. I'll be doing solo. I'll be playing a lot of these tunes from BARTALK, my new album. So come check that out if you're in the Fort Worth area. My podcast that I do is called The Dead Vinyl Podcast, and we would be super honored if you would like to come by. You and DJ would be super cool.
Yeah.
Come on by and chat a little bit on our podcast, but the Dead Vinyl Podcast, check it out. It's a comedy podcast, so we just make like a bunch of jokes and talk about like Rocky movies and shit like that. But
Nice.
but it's a good time. So check that out. We're doing a live episode for that podcast at Gusto Burger on Magnolia on July 6th.
Shout out Gusto.
Clear your calendar. Come eat a burger. Laugh with some jokes with us, and then we're going to do some DJing later in the night. We're going to spin some vinyl, so it'll be fun. So I hope you could. That's all the places you can see me out in the world. You can find me on the internet at Hayden Miller TX. All platforms. Find me there. And go check out my record, BARTALK. Go listen to it. I would love to have more plays because that is what people look at when they're booking you, unfortunately. So find my record, listen to it, and smile for once. Jeez.
All right. Thank you for stopping by.
Thank you so much. This has been so fun.
Yeah, it's fun. This has been episode 108 with Hayden Miller.
Had to do the quick check on
gotta
that.
check that. That's why I got it, dude, because I was always forgetting. Episode 108 with Hayden Miller. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for listening. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.